go ahead.
And then the interest rate, when you do lock in, you're locking in a fixed rate, so then whatever that value is will stay the same depending on what the assessed value is. If our home goes up, it goes up over the 20 years.
If the payment is still going to be the same, so the levy would be, and Sheila, you're here, so if you want to jump in a moment, but the levy would be recalculated so that each homeowner is still basically paying the same amount regardless of what their assessment would be, correct?
If the assessments go up over the 20 years.
Well, it depends if more assessed value comes into the town, it drops what you're going to pay.
Right.
It does vary, it's not going to be a set amount every year, it's going to go up and down.
And as more people move into the community, though, you will share a smaller portion of it over the years.
Yeah, you build another subdivision, your costs will go down because you have more people
I
controlling
just
the
want to know
pool.
if that was in there with all that. and
Yeah.
figured out.
Right now, it's an estimated.
And this is for the life of the loan.
Well, it would probably at some point be renegotiated 5 years into it, or whatever the terms would be on the loan.
Our assessment will be for the life of the loan.
So in
I would
other
say
words,
our assessed values are going up.
Right.
Because, and then if it's based off of our assessed value.
It's not going to, if your assessed value goes up, it's not going to increase the amount of somebody's payment though, because that'll get recalculated. They're still sharing about the same amount.
Usually when we do a reassessment, yours goes up, but so does most of the town.
Yeah, right, I
So
know
it just
that.
Right.
kind of just adjusts, is all.
There's small adjustments in as it goes along.
so I think, are you saying after the loan is paid off in 20 years, there's still going to be more projects? So that $160 isn't, that doesn't go away in 20 years when the loan's paid off, because really,
It may be replaced by something else, but this fire station will be paid for.
And then in a sense, if nothing else comes up, it would be dropped off.
It would be dropped off, yes, unless it got replaced by something
So
else.
then we get to vote something else.
I'm sorry?
Then
Right,
there'd be
you have to
another
vote
vote,
on
one
that.
other vote,
Right.
no other, whatever.
I mean,
You can't predict the future.
there's always going to be, okay,
They have to pay for new truck at $1 million.
you know, there's always going to be future
Are you
expenses.
talking about votes and stuff like that? So is that all calculated into some of the price that
What was that again?
you said you wanted to get a vote and stuff like that? Is that calculated?
No, those,
That's all extra?
here's the thing, when we talk about those types of assets, the membership paid for the ATV that's sitting behind you. The membership paid for the trailer that's sitting behind you. That's what we do our fundraisers for. When we talk about a boat, we're talking about a $3,000 or $4,000 boat, not a 32-foot Sea Ray. It'd be kind of cool, but it's not what we're looking for.
Right.
So those small expenses are where the fundraisers and the membership kick in and contribute to this department so greatly. The last truck that was purchased, the tanker truck, was budgeted for $343 when the order was signed. As we went along in the process of building that truck, we put some additions on it to make it a better truck. The membership wrote a $14,000 check to the town and added and picked up those additional costs to make that a better truck on delivery. So we do a lot of things to help pick up that cost. But there's always going to be more equipment, yes?
I have a couple questions. How many square foot is this building?
This is about 4,300 right now.
Okay, and the back section on your upper project there? Keep going. Okay, from there to the back,
It's
meaning
probably,
from the back of your bay area
Mhm.
to the top of the drawing?
It probably represents somewhere in the 6,000 square foot range.
What's above those rooms? It's gonna be above it.
There's going to be a mezzanine above there.
Be a
So there's a
concrete-
storage area
Be
above it.
concrete?
Yeah,
Nice.
so.
It
So
cannot
that's
be
about-
used for
that's-
any type of public access though, because as soon as you have something up there that the public could access, then you have to have an elevator and all those ADA compliant things. So as long as you keep it fire department storage only, then you don't have to put in an expensive elevator system or a chairlift system up in that small area.
6,000 square feet
Approximately, yes.
in this building is
4,200, 4,300.
I'm sitting here, I'm gonna be, the elephant room open, I'm gonna be straight up. For me as a taxpayer, it would be one hell of a lot more palatable to reconvert this building for your back section, attach it onto an open storage.
That's what I was thinking.
That'd be a lot more palatable for me. Because to have the town of Wheatland have this building sitting here saying, okay, well, yeah, you can use it for whatever you want. I'm thinking, that's kind of waste of money. It's
So if
not
you're looking
frugal.
if you're looking at the cost, I'm just looking at cost-wise,
Or take it down.
to make this building feasible to be able to have people stay here and install the showers and cut the concrete out and put the drains and all that, it's more costly than building a new facility. Definitely more costly.
To build a new facility.
No, a new facility would be cheaper than if you want to remodel this building.
Do you have an estimate on that to,
I can.
Did you ever consider that, breaking
Yep,
this
I
into
can.
that?
Yep, I
Having
can.
the,
So,
just so we know?
when all of this
That's what I'm
became
saying, it's a
an issue,
taxable,
when all this became a question,
as an equivalent.
our architect from Scherer went back and she came up with an option. And this is what she came up with. Using the existing station and then putting 4 bays over here and then putting some meeting rooms in the middle. We lost a significant amount of office space. We lost the sleeping areas. We downsized the kitchen. The meeting room got shrunk down or crammed into a smaller area. And it sits here behind the tank, and it really doesn't have a lot of options for building onto. And this was a $2.4 million approximate plan. So it took off about 1.3 million from the total cost, but really kind of tied our hands for in the future quite a bit.
What was this building going to be used for?
This would be used as basically fire bays right here. So there'd be 4 here and 4 here. So it really kind of tied us up, and we lost a lot of space.
Part of the problem, this building here in summertime, we get in the spring and summer, you start getting the hot weather, humid weather. This floor in here turns
Sweats.
into a swimming pool.
Sure.
All this water sits here underneath these trucks constantly. And these trucks with all the electronics that are underneath them, they just start rotting away.
Or 18, where you had the estimate with a tear down this building, build a new building, that was 2 point something?
2.8.
No, to tear this down and replace this with the entire complex, the town hall and everything, was the initial plan. And that was, the one that included tearing this down was to replace this with the town hall up here. And that was the whole town hall complex and fire station in one. That was the 5.4 that was thrown out initially.
No, I'm talking about
She's
the
talking
2
about the
point.
one that
No.
Bill killed.
No, yeah,
Right.
The Keller building.
okay, and that was how much?
That was 2.8. That was a project that was done by a different company for 18,000 square feet that was done up in Door County. And that was thrown out.
You guys were happy with that design too?
If you look in the town board minutes, you'll see my comment was, if you could drop that building in our backyard for 2.8 million, it's a good deal for the
Get it
town.
done?
That was my comment.
And there's nothing comparable out there to that price and that now.
No, because of
That
the
was-
inflation, I guess.
that was-
That's a $1
We-
million inflation.
Well, we've entered into an agreement with Scherer based on the town board's decision, and a building committee was set up, and we designed a building that actually has about 3,000 square feet less, and some more costs. Nothing wrong with Scherer as a company, but
I
that's,
think it was 2018, right? That first quote?
the first quote was, that building was actually completed in 2016, we toured it in 2018, 2017.
The $2.4 million quote for here.
Was that 2018?
This modified plan that I just showed you?
No, you
No.
said there was an original quote that you guys
The
proposed.
2.8.
That was turned down, 2.8?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
It was 2.8?
Yes.
That was dropping the Door County.
That's when we
building
looked
here.
at it, yes, that was a building that was completed and occupied in 2017. We toured it in 2018.
But that's the one you would like to have done.
We said it would have fit our needs, yes.
You would have a few changes in it, but it still would
Yeah.
have, the footprint of it would have been pretty much the same, right, Lou?
It was a different footprint.
Yeah.
It was a different footprint, but it would have fit back here, yes.
Right, but you still could have put everything
Yeah.
around.
You were happy with that?
Yeah, it offered us basically 8 fire apparatus bays and 2 for ambulances, so it had 10 bays on it actually. And it offered us adequate amount of living space and office space and everything, but those were decisions beyond my control. So,
But Lou, just to be fair,
I'm-
that was built in 2017, correct?
Mhm.
Right.
Yes, that's
And was
right.
that a bid price here for Wheatland?
They said they could probably, we never gave that company the opportunity to bid that price.
It wasn't a bid price here, it wasn't a final architect's bid price, everything here.
Oh.
It was one
Up
built
there,
in Door
yes.
County
So that's.
in
that's-
2017.
Well, that's why I was confused, because you're saying, well, it's gonna go up about 5% per year. And 1 million over 2 years is not 5% per year, so I didn't
No,
know
but
how the
3
heck we.
million.
I didn't know how we got from 2.8 to
3
3.7.
million, 3 million at 5% would be about 100.
Oh, yeah, but you said 2 years ago we had a
Yeah.
2.8, and I just didn't know how we got in 2 years from
Oh,
2.8
it's
to
2 different
3.7.
companies.
Two different companies,
Different buildings.
Shear and Keller.
Yeah.
Okay, Lou,
Does this go out for bids? Both Keller and Shear are a construction management company, not, they don't do
Not a
the
general
serv-
contractor.
Yeah, general contractor. Thanks, Jeff.
I think it sounds great. Moving to town, I worry myself with my kids in the house. I have a sister-in-law who's a 911 dispatcher. I have many firefighters in my life and understand how much shortened, my question is, the response time will be shortened by how much in this setup? Because you're back to back now, so you've got to be pulling in and out, in and out.
In that respect, it will shorten response time. As long as we continue to respond the way we are as a volunteer department.
Like the response.
But this will definitely make it more convenient to get the trucks out of the building faster, yes. And also safer. And sometimes when you have apparatus in front of apparatus, you have to move things and pull them back in the building before you can respond on a call. So that does waste time.
And my final
Yes.
thought is if for some strange reason, and I hope that it doesn't happen to you, but it does get shot down on this referendum, are you going to come back with a different plan?
Probably. Maybe at some point, yes. So if we can, I'd like to move into a little bit of some of the other questions. We know what it's going to cost. I mean, there's some variables with the financing. All those are kind of have variables in them.
I don't mean to cut you off here, but what are the main things you gotta think about? The age of all these guys. Now, you gotta build something that's gonna draw younger people,
Absolutely.
that they have a place that they're comfortable with, that's gonna protect their health, to
I
keep
agree.
our town covered.
I agree. I think there's just so
You
many
know.
people that haven't come, and I just want to know, in the event that it doesn't make it, that you won't give up, that you'll keep trying.
Right. But we do want a building that is going to be appealing and convenient to bring in membership. So what happens if we lose our volunteer membership? That's ultimately the question we have to ask ourselves. Not how much this costs. Yes, that's an important question. If we want to stay volunteer in this town, I've had people ask these questions, and I'll throw some of these past questions out. Our operating budget, which is not truck replacement, but right now our current operating budget, which covers the utilities, the insurance, maintenance, upkeep, things like that, it's about $75,000 a year. I've had people say, well, have we looked into any options for doing it for less? I don't know how you can do it for less. Contracting with another neighboring department, or 2 or 3 neighboring departments to come in from the outside, the first question they're going to ask is, okay, when we get there to put your fire out, Wheatland, who's going to help us? Because you don't have a fire department anymore, so you don't have any members to help us. So we're going to have to bring a lot of resources, and it's going to be 2 or 3 towns responding to our town every time we have a fire. So some sort of an outside contract arrangement will probably end up costing us more than we are spending now. The real key here, the thing that we're trying to protect, is the membership and the labor. If we don't do something with the building and we keep everything the way it is, and at some point and I want to clarify this, nobody in this department has or is threatening to walk out on this town. That has not ever been a discussion. But through attrition, as that age creeps up past 52, and through attrition, as we have more and more trouble recruiting new people to come in here, and we lose our membership, and we have to start paying for staffing, this building is not compliant, and you could not put paid staffing in here. Then you will have to build a new building, and you will pay for the paid staffing on top of that. Or we will have an outside contract with multiple departments. Either way, our cost is going to go up considerably. Our community is growing, our needs are growing, and things are changing. And we have to be able to have a strong membership here. And we know that at some point there might be a need for a couple people during the daytime, but nighttime till morning and weekends, our responses are strong. But that Monday through Friday, we might need a little bit of help during the day. And that help can also do a lot of other things around the fire station. Every Monday night we're doing something. It's meeting, training, truck washing equipment check, another training. If we could eliminate some of that truck washing equipment check by having a person here during the day, we can either have another training or give our members a little bit of time off. I think one of our 19-year-old new members said it best. He walked in here, he joined, he's a great member, great asset to have around, and he says, I came to Wheatland because of the people. I like the department, I like the people, and you have good equipment. He said, there's nothing about this building that makes me want to be here. I can go to Salem, they have a nicer station. I can go to Pleasant Prairie, they have a nicer station. I can get paid at both of those. I volunteer my time here. If we don't build a building that's going to keep our volunteer membership strong, and we lose that, now we're going to start paying people. So, what does it cost to staff a fire truck? Let's talk about staffing that ladder truck with 5 people on it 24 hours a day. It's 5 today, 5 tomorrow, and 5 the next day, because firefighters work 24/48. So that'd be 15 people. Now let's throw one more into the mix for sick time, vacation time, and holidays. So 16 people to staff one fire truck for a year. 60, 70,000 a year? That's pretty conservative. We're up to over $1 million now to staff that fire truck. We still have to get the tanker to the scene because we don't have any fire hydrants to get the water out of. And we still have to have somebody else drive the other engine to fill the tanker. And we have to make sure there's enough adequate resources, and we still probably will call in mutual aid. So this membership is saving this town a significant amount of money. What we're trying to do is we're trying to have a better building to enhance our membership, protect our membership, give them a comfortable environment to work in, and make sure that they're safe, and also keep this equipment clean and dry and safe, and end the moisture problems. The biggest problem that we have with our equipment in this building is moisture coming up from underneath. You can crawl underneath that 2007 truck that's sitting right there, and you can see the effects of the moisture on it. And that will take a toll on that truck over time, and we're going to keep that truck for 30 years because of the cost of it. We amortize these trucks out over a long lifespan, and the corrosion is one of the biggest things that takes the life out of these trucks. And all of that moisture on the wiring causes a lot of problems. It gets labor intensive to track down all those corrosion issues in the wiring. So by protecting this equipment and protecting our membership, if we can keep us as a volunteer department for another 5 or 10 years minimum, and we hope we can, just take that in payroll and equate that to how fast that's going to pay off this building. And that's going to make a significant difference. If we have to start paying, the amortization on this building I think came out to like $264,000 a year. If we have to start paying wages and paying for a building, you can see how much that's going to go up quickly. So
another thing we heard about these plans, whether it was from neighboring departments, other departments in the area, some of the architects that Lou and Jeff talked to at some of these seminars, is that there's not enough fat in our building plan. There's not enough fat to just start cutting the price on it and pulling stuff out. We went away from a staple in a lot of fire departments is that 30-foot tall corner of the building. There's a hose tower in there, and that's a $100,000 addition without putting the mechanicals to raise that hose up. So we went away from that. we've talked about, or we have in-floor heat to control the moisture, but also not require these big heaters in there as well. One to two small heaters with that in-floor heat from the ground up.
And that in-floor heat, which was a $41,000 option in the existing building, that's already quoted into that price, not only controls your moisture, but it allows you to take that fire hose, roll it out onto the concrete, and in a couple hours, it's dry, we can roll it up and put it on the rack. In the summertime, we can roll it out outside in the sun and let nature dry it. But we eliminated that hose tower from the corner of the building because it just seemed more practical to heat the floor and spend half as much money on that because it had so many other benefits. Also, there's a couple different ways we looked at heating. The typical overhead heaters, we looked at infrared heat. Infrared, those long tubes that run down between the trucks, they take a toll on the trucks over the years too. That heat is constantly heating the metal and heating the trucks. It dries out the plastic on all the light bars and starts cracking all those lenses, and then you end up replacing that stuff. It takes the lettering and things like that and starts yellowing it. So that causes a lot of stress, and as soon as you drive the trucks out of the building, you heated the trucks, not the building. Now the building's cold because that infrared has to heat the floor underneath the trucks. This way, by heating the floor, when that cold air comes in and falls on the floor, it warms it up and the building warms up. We're using all that concrete as a heat sink. So we put a lot of thought into this building in that respect, and also
We're on revision 10 of the prints.
right, and trying to eliminate a lot of the unnecessary costs, but also make this building so that once it's done, we don't have to spend any additional money on this for hopefully at least 20 years. That this building is a solid asset in this community. There's always going to be the need for changes in our operations. I mean, when I joined, I never thought that we would have some of the things in the fire department that we have and do the things that we do. But as times changed, as 9/11 happened, and FEMA said, we have fire departments, they're a great resource, they're practical, they're able to adapt quickly. We're going to throw all these additional responsibilities at them. So firefighting is just one of about 18 things that we do now. And I'm not exaggerating when I say 18, with all those other disciplines that we have that we get involved in, search and rescue and everything else. It's just one of many things. So we have to be adaptable to grow with our community, and as the needs of our community change, we have to change with that. And we also have to look at society in general. You know, we're no longer recruiting the farmers that we had in our town because we don't have as many. Farmers used to be a huge asset to this department during the day because they were always around. We have less farms and our farmers are busier. So we have to look at other avenues to bring people in and recruit. So we're becoming more creative with that as well, but we have to be adaptable for all of that. Other questions, please?
I just have a
Yes.
couple comments. I need to excuse myself. I need to leave and go south for my mom's in a
Sure.
nursing home. Anyway, I'm going to stand by my comment that to leave this building sit empty and do nothing with it other than, okay, town, you can use it, but we want the whole thing to incorporate some way of redesign. I have no doubts in my mind that you're out of space. I have no doubts in my mind. I think the heat in the floor for the fire trucks there's no better way that you could do it. Perfect. As a taxpayer, to leave this 40,000 square foot building empty, and you got 6,000 square feet where you could have your training room in here and maybe your overnight rooms and configure it for your bathrooms and your sleeping rooms for the future in this building and the training room, and maybe your equipment wash stations will be in between here. Leave your underground tank, reconfigure it, utilize this building. That'll look a hell of a lot better to the taxpayer than it just say, okay, here's this building, we don't need it, but we want this one.
Okay. Can I counter that?
You betcha.
Okay. I have heard a lot of complaints, and this is my thought, strictly my thought, with ideas for the future for this town. I have heard a lot of complaints about the snow plowing. People aren't happy with it. you know, whether you're happy or not, that's your opinion, but we are using an outside service. We talked about how can we come up with daytime labor. Let's look at what some of the other communities are doing. Let's take this a little deeper and look at what other communities are doing. They're using people from their street departments to cover in their fire department during the daytime, as those communities are growing. And then eventually they can have a dedicated street department and a dedicated fire department. We pay the county for a lot of things that we do in our town. Maybe we should look at another sort of a needs assessment and say, what if we got our own small street department and started doing some of this stuff for our town and use those people as firefighters during the day, and you can park a couple pieces of equipment in here, trucks with plows and things like that, and pickup trucks. The town does not even own a pickup truck for picking up garbage on the side of the road or anything. We pay somebody mileage to do that. And we have a brown building there that's packed full of equipment and a couple mowers in it and stuff that are sitting in unheated storage all winter that could come in here. We have a boat patrol boat.
Mowers don't need to seat in that sitting, need a building for the winter.
We have a boat patrol boat that we don't even have a place to store, which could go in here. And again, if you look at some of that and take this as an overall needs assessment, I think this building could serve a purpose for this town for in the future for other needs, and still use this and have it being a very worthwhile building. So I think there's more to look at, and that's also a way to help cover some of that daytime staffing issue that we have.
That's a bigger project, and that's a bigger issue than just adding on or building a new firehouse. In my mind, I think you're mixing a little. In my mind, you're mixing a little apples with oranges, but that's a bigger town.
I think,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just giving you my taxpayers' opinion.
And everybody that I hear, you firefighters, you don't need this, you don't need this fancy station. All 32 of us are taxpayers as well. And we're gonna get, we have people that live in the trailer park, we have people that live in huge houses, medium houses, small houses, so we're all gonna be impacted. And then, you know, some other people say, you guys are just volunteers. Our fires burn just as hot, we have just as bad as accidents, medical calls, we just don't get paid.
And we have just as much training.
No,
We don't
so
stay on the equipment.
I'm
But I think
we appreciate you voicing. That was the whole point of these information sessions. That's
it's
the whole
to
point
get
of
opinions,
the
to
referendum.
get questions. And your questions and your opinions are legitimate, and I do understand where you're coming from.
Let me interject here. Where do most of your tax money go?
schools.
Yes, Gateway, Salem or Wellman, Wheatland.
Right.
Okay, the little bit that you're gonna be paying for this here, I mean, I'm retired, pretty much retired, I'm 76 almost, so I did it since 1974. I did it for nothing. I put a lot in for all those years. I think I spent way more than what it's gonna cost you for a $200,000 house per year.
Sure, I agree.
Now why not do it? Look at the money you spent for Wheatland School. What was it, 8 million? Were you over there complaining about they're spending too much money?
I'm just new to the community. I've only been here not quite 5 years, so.
Well, you're getting a fire service for nothing, virtually for nothing right now.
Yeah.
Well, and
But
everybody's
it's not gonna be for nothing if we don't
Jerry,
get this done.
everybody's entitled to their
Right.
opinions, and that's why we want it.
I think we did look at, we did look at, though, that this building wasn't gonna just sit vacant
Try
and
to
be a shell.
That would be,
You know, and if it doesn't pass, maybe we go back to the drawing board and look at that. You know, maybe everybody will vote.
But there were
thank
other-
you for listening.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
no,
you
there
for
are, and
putting
there
that
was-
on. It was
again,
very, it was
having-
great.
Thank you.
It was awesome, thank you.
Or again, having a solid answer.
And
As
thank
to
you.
his question,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
will the building be used for? Have that answer.
And there are
I mean,
other
that-
thoughts
but
intended
you
for
didn't
it.
highlight that there
I'm
was.
sorry that I got
No, it's okay, thank you.
So that leaves it
Okay.
open.
Remember, it's not,
I know,
a
it's all-
volunteer fire chief.
No, I know.
Who's and what's gonna happen to the
I'm always saying, have the
building.
answer, and then you're, you know what I mean?
He can make, thought patterns out there, but you got a town hall up there that makes the decision what
But-
this building
Well,
is
again,
for
I'm new
after
too,
tax.
so I'm learning it all
Right.
myself.
But looking
Right.
at how we can, use some of these resources in more than one way, like other towns have done it. There are towns smaller than us, such as Palmyra, that are operating what's called a public safety officer program, where they have people that are trained as police officers, firefighters, and EMTs, and they work a 24-hour shift. They come in and they do 8 hours as a police officer and 16 hours as a firefighter EMT. And they felt that that was enough need and a priority in their town that that's what they went ahead and did. I'm not saying that's what Wheatland should do, but as these smaller communities have to grow and adapt and meet the need for their communities, and if we don't have a lot of jobs in our town. We don't have a lot of places for employment, and therefore the working force of our town tends to work outside of our town. That working force also tends to be the primary number of volunteers in our department. So we see those people all leaving town during the day. So if we could look at some other way of having, if we just want to hire 2 firefighters to sit here all day, then I think the pushback from the community would be, well, we hire 2 firefighters and we hardly have any calls. But if we could hire 2 people that were town employees and did lots of things for the town, that you were feeling that your tax money was doing a lot more than just being a firefighter or street person or grass cutter or whatever, then I think we would be viewed as efficient and creative.
Twin Lakes and Bristol does that, and it works very well.
Right. I mean, Bristol does it. Twin Lakes initially didn't let their street department employees go on fire calls, even though many of them were firefighters. Now they are going on those calls because they need that resource during the day, because they're all seeing the same things that we're suffering too. And that's another thing too. Our problems in Wheatland are not unique to us. During the daytime, every one of our surrounding neighboring communities is feeling the same type of staffing crunch during the day. So we see our daytime mutual aid calls increasing. A lot of the things at night we can handle on our own, but during the daytime, we see reaching out to other departments for more help and them calling us for more help. And just an example of when we had the barn fire 2 years ago, we had 37 pieces of equipment that were called in and over 120 people. And somebody said to me, well, what's the bill for that? I said, nothing. And that was all from surrounding departments in that MEDA system. Because we go to those communities and we stand by and we help and we cover their fires for them, so it's a mutual aid agreement, and that's how that works. We wouldn't be able to afford that if we had to pay a bill for that. So we're fortunate to have that system in place, and it goes a long way for saving us all and giving us a lot of manpower for those times that we need it, which isn't all that often that we can pull those resources in like that. Yes?
Yeah, if we don't have this fire department, you will then have to pay other departments, because they're gonna do it, they're not gonna do it for nothing.
Yes?
So I just left for a rescue call, and there's a lot of things that happen on rescue calls that I obviously can't say to you, but one instance that I did just run into, and he obviously doesn't know what I'm gonna say, but I did run into a deputy. And I was talking to her and she said, I'd really like to come out by your station. I gotta go to the bathroom. She can't leave. She's got nowhere to go. But she values the station or a place to come where she can take her belt off, use the bathroom for 5 to 10 minutes. That also knows when you see the police car out here that we've got somebody in our area. But she was kind of begging me to come here, and I said, well, you can come here. And she said, but I can't right now because we're so busy. So when he says knocking the police section off, that does aid us because she also knows who I am. I know who she is. She knows my skills, so she knows when she can leave a scene and when she can't. And these are important things to us volunteers to be able to say, I know I've got that deputy on my side, and they know that they've got us on their side too.
Years ago, we rarely saw law enforcement come to rescue calls if there wasn't a specific need for them. But now we see them coming to most of all of those medical calls in the homes. And we're very appreciative to have them there. It's nice to get to know those people ahead of time because there are a lot of new deputies coming into the department, and then they do rotate them through the county and staff them in different areas. So we see a lot of new faces out there, and it's helpful to get to know them before they just show up on the calls.
You bring up a good point when you said about the Wheatland school, the school needed that.
Right.
The referendum for that passed. So
Right.
if you compare that with the upkeep of the new building that you need here, it's something we need.
Right.
What would it come out basically per week? I thought you had those numbers, 180 a year.
It comes out to, on a $200,000 home, it actually broke down to 47 cents a day
Right.
for the average taxpayer.
I think for
47
these
cents a
guys
day.
that have decon showers, decontaminating and everything, it's well worth the 180 bucks a year, in my opinion.
So,
Because every time they go out, a chance of getting cancer, getting something, lung burn, whatever, so.
But it's,
So I had a cost question then.
yes,
So to cover this, you're increasing the rate, the tax rate
mm-hmm,
on our, that's what's happening. It's not like a flat
Right.
assessment
Not
right
flat,
now and then
right.
that's what it sticks to for 20 years. It
It fluctuates, yes.
it'll fluctuate on that. So where are we compared to these communities that we're talking about with our rate? I really don't know.
Our tax rates?
Yes, compared to Twin Lakes who has a full-time
They
public
have a police
works
department,
and a
so
police
ours is a
department.
lot lower.
We are a lot lower. That's what I'm asking. I'm not,
Yeah.
We're a lot
so,
lower.
they have a daylight call department.
I know, I lived in Twin Lakes.
Okay.
They have
So-
very good snow removal.
Yes,
Right.
they do.
Very good snow removal.
I mean, there's
They
a
have
lot of good
of,
services.
They have a lot of great services.
and they
That's
come
why I
with
was
a
asking
cost.
where our rate is compared to
Ours
a
is-
neighboring.
Ours is like $2 and, say, 4 cents a thousand. Last year, somewhere in that area, 2.4, 2.5, something like that. And theirs is like $5 or $6 or $7. I don't know what theirs is, but I know it's somewhere above 5, let's put it that way.
But, I mean, it costs for the building, each taxpayer, this is set and amortized over 20 years. I mean, there may be some changes in interest,
I
but it's
get it.
not gonna go up.
I understand.
Do you have
where
another
you're at.
question, ma'am?
I was just gonna say, I know I just moved into town and my address is Burlington, so I already have a problem with my homeowner's insurance, thinking that my nearest fire department is 20 minutes down the road and that you're not even my fire department.
Well, you gotta
Yeah.
clarify, you
Yeah.
live in New Munster or Wheatland.
No,
I mean-
Some of us have
The-
a mailing,
what-
if you had a mailbox
Yeah,
in
I mean, it's
Burlington.
still like, you know, I'm like Burlington, what the hell?
What most people do, have your insurance company call me, and I will
I
explain it to
could,
you.
okay.
Yep, that's,
Because you're my fire department, you are my, yeah.
right.
So-
And then I explain to them how it's staffed and how it works and how we respond, and then they'll,
Yes, they put
They'll
in
look at
something they were trying to.
it's called the ISO rating.
I actually had to get a letter from the fire department.
Yeah, I might have to do that as well.
Right.
Because they think it's like taking 20 minutes for a fire truck to get to my house. I'm like, we'll be done.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain that, so.
Okay. Currently the ISO rating for the town of Wheatland is 9. The lower the number, the better. So what are the obstacles that take in consideration to lower that number?
Is
10
it on
is,
scale 1 to 10?
yeah, 10 is if you had no fire department.
And we're at a 9?
We're at a 9.
Because we're
So
volunteer.
there's 3 components that we're working on to help lower it to about a 6. And that's the lowest we can go. And we have 2 of the 3 components basically taken care of. One is our maintenance program. We have a certified maintenance program, and we do what's called UL underwriters laboratory testing on our pumps, or the equivalent of. That has to be done annually. So those things are taken care of, and we have maintenance records that all the trucks are professionally maintained. We've done a water study that says that countywide, the departments out here can flow a minimum of 250 gallons a minute at a scene for more than 20 minutes. We've proven that, we've done that. So last thing we have to get in place, and I'm working on that, is a contract with a hose testing company that tests the hoses annually. And once we get that in place, then we can reapply to lower the ISO rating maybe down to a 7 or a 6. And that's just projected. It
And
might come
depending
down
on
1
your-
point.
And what does that do?
That may, for some insured, that may, if your insurance company recognizes ISO, they may recalculate your rates, and it could possibly save you $100, $150 a year. Some insurance companies don't recognize ISO, and it may not change it at all. Why can't we go lower? 1, we're not staffed 24/7 in-house. Response times are longer out here than they would be in a metropolitan or a city area. And most important is, we don't have fire hydrants. And the fire hydrants are a big block in getting that rate any lower. So we tank our water to the scene. And even though we have, every time we have a fire, and this is another thing to consider when people talk about, well, let's just have another town do it. Or we could eliminate some of this equipment, and if we have less fire equipment, our cost is gonna go down. We have a ladder truck and an engine, or 2 engines, depending on how you want to use them, but they both have the capabilities. We have a tanker, we have a crash truck for taking care of car accidents that can also pump water. And so do our neighbors. When we have a major fire, we might have 5 or 6 of those tanker trucks shuttling water to the scene. And then we may call one of those neighboring departments. One sets up here at this cistern, one sets up at another cistern, or one sets up at a lake or a river. Or we might even send some of those departments up to the nearest hydrant, which is on the south side of Burlington in the industrial park. And depending on the weather and the circumstances, it might be quicker to run to Burlington, get the water, and come back than it is to be out on Lily Lake cutting a hole in the ice with a chainsaw to draft water out of it. Because that's what we have to do to establish a large water supply. And we may do 3 sources of water for a major fire. But when we talk about just trying to have 2 trucks or a small station and cut down on our resources, the resources, yes, it costs money to have these trucks, there's no doubt about that. But also, depending on the circumstances, everything we've discussed is if there's 1 incident happening at a time. When we had the barn fire, there were 2 other incidents going on in the nearby areas that were drawing resources north as well. So giving up our resources, giving up our trucks, or downsizing our department isn't always the best move, because you need backup plans and you need backup resources. And always depending on somebody else to come and solve our problems. What happens when our neighboring departments go through their staffing crises in the future? They may not always be available to help us either.
Well, Louis, and you said to me yesterday even, and I think it's a great example, the weather and bad stuff comes from the west, and it's a one big wave, and it travels right through the east, and usually if we're getting hit by it, Burlington or Randall, there's been times where no one, or very minimal, could help us with that mutual aid call because they're busy as well. And I'd never really thought about it before, but usually when something bad is going on,
we're all out.
Weather related, everybody's out. Ice, snow.
Wires down. If we have wires down,
yeah.
So does everybody else.
Grass fires are
Same
huge.
thing.
If it's dry enough in our community, it's dry everywhere else.
Anybody that's been in this over the years, if you listen to the radios, the dispatch radios, for our community and surrounding communities, it can be dead silent for hours, and all of a sudden when it starts everywhere, and everybody gets busy. And that's why we need those additional resources. So, yes?
Most people don't even know about this here, but many years ago, this was before Randall Fire Department had a fire department, when they didn't exist. We had a fire one night at winter time over at Powers Lake. Well, it turned out it wasn't one house fire, it was 5 house fires that were started. Randall was getting charged. That's when Randall's decided to get their own fire department. Another thing with fires, when you talk about grass fires, we've had times where we had, how many fires we have going one time, Louis?
We've had
That's 5 or 8 at one time?
six grass fires in just a few hours period. So we get done from one and go right to the next. And if it's windy out, sometimes those grass fires can remote the department responses. So, and at the same point, those departments are needing help too. So, any other questions or anything else I can answer?
So, just a quick clarification on the referendum on Tuesday, from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. up at the town hall. It is a non-binding referendum, so basically it's an opportunity for the community and the taxpayers to voice their opinion to the town board. The town board can then either take that community majority and go with that, or they can vote against it. It doesn't, just because the community all says yes or all says no, they don't have to necessarily go that direction.
Pretty much the crowd.
What's that?
So pretty much the crowd.
It's
People vote, they want
yeah.
something.
They are elected officials, they need to be serving their constituents, and this is the opportunity without,
I know that, that's good information.
yeah, so
So
it's,
they could still shut this down if they wanted to.
They could.
This is only an informational
And
referendum.
if the community votes no, they could still move forward on it. So it's strictly an informational referendum.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. I will.
In fact, there's
I wish you
a
guys good luck.
copy of the sample bill here if you
I
want to
already
take it.
got one,
Okay,
thank you. Okay.
all right. Anything else I can answer for anybody, or?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.